Hello, so today we've got a phenomenal guest which I can't wait to introduce you. And as always with these podcasts, my goal is to inspire you. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that this episode you're going to be inspired because this young lad, what he's been able to achieve in less than a year is just outstanding. More than what I achieved in my first 5 years of my property journey. And this is why I love to share people's stories. And as always, I'm going to take you through their journey to find out a bit more about their background. More importantly, how they got started on their property journey. What was their first property deal. And some lessons learned because he's gone through so much inside less than a year. And my guest also has the best name that I've ever seen. I'm not even joking. I'm jealous of that. Thor Dorer, right? So Thor, let's have a little chat about yourself. First and foremost, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Now, not only have we got you on the podcast just now, we had a property jumpstart just recently, and because of a lot of the success that you've had in your, the last year in your property journey, we also invited you to come along and go up on stage and share a little bit about your journey as well. And I never knew that was your first time going up on stage because you just walked up there and bossed it, just sitting there like in front of over 100 people talking about your journey, your background and everything else, and just literally mic drop moment walking off the stage. That's what it seemed like. And I never knew that you were nervous and stuff. So how was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a really great opportunity just to push my boundaries, push my comfort zone, which, as I said, I've never done anything like that before. Probably the most people I've spoken from were like, I don't know, 5 friends or something like that. So going up there, I was actually feeling pretty good about it because obviously I know what I'm doing, and I was just sharing what I do. Which was good, but as soon as I turned around and looked at the people, I was like, oh my god, there's over 100 people here. But yeah, it was amazing, the experience, to be honest.
Yeah, public speaking, it's one of those scary things for so many people, and I'm surprised that being your first time getting up there, but you did an incredible job. So let's tell us a bit more about the younger Thor, your upbringing, where you came from, because I know it's different from here in the UK, and then what led you to be here, and we'll maybe have a little conversation around that.
Yep. So I grew up in Germany and had a really good life. So my dad really provided really well for us, had a good job and went to really good schools and then had various different jobs. So went and did a voluntary year after school in the kindergarten. Then I was an admin assistant and after that assembled stair lifts and then eventually into world of finance. And then in 2020, I've met my now fiance and then decided to move over to the UK. So.
And when you came to the UK, was that when you started doing university here in terms of your degree or from your background, or was that still in Germany?
No, that was here. So I
Okay.
started in studying finance, investment and risk, and I was about 2 years in. Then when I started my property journey, which was obviously exciting, yeah.
Now, you had an interesting story that you told me about with regards to going to university, learning about finance and risk and so forth.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that story, because this is a common thing I hear.
Yeah, so all my professors, obviously, they teach what they're supposed to teach. And one of my professors who was teaching us about investments, she was working in an investment firm before. And she was telling us that one story that every single time that when people phoned up and said like, I want to make this investment or I want to invest in this, she would always say like, oh, that's too risky. I would never invest in this. And that was the woman who then was supposed to teach us about investments. I was like a penny drop one. I was like, what's going on? Then I had like a business professor as well who didn't have any businesses or any business experience. I was asking him like what do you have in business? Like what have you done? He said nothing really. I just studied it. And I was like, well, that's a bit odd, So
Yeah, that's a challenge, isn't it, for so many people out there where they've got so much theory in terms of knowledge, but never applied to get real world experience. And if you've got a professor that's teaching you about investments and how to de-risk, you've got to understand people's risk profile and then tailor a product for that individual. But to turn around and teach someone about investment to then say don't make any investments is just incredibly bizarre.
I know, it was very odd. And as I said, like that's when the penny dropped and I realized I need to learn from people, not maybe like the professors, but people who are actually out there doing the things that I want to do as well. And that's when I then started to look for like people like yourself, who are actually doing property and business and where I can look up to and just do that as well.
You mentioned Robert Kiyosaki previously before we started recording here about the whole Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and I think Robert Kiyosaki, for me anyway, it was one of those first books that I stumbled across at a young age and read it and was just taken back by how much it goes against conventional thinking. You know, talking about the cash flow quadrant and how you've got to transition from the left to the right, from being an employee or self-employed to being a business owner or an investor, and breaking that down and understanding and thinking, why don't you get taught this stuff at school? You know, why is there a different way of creating wealth and making money that we just don't get taught? So that was kind of the trigger point, and I guess that's how you kind of came across myself. Is that right?
Yeah, so I read lots of different books, but that was one that really like opened my mind and blew my mind as well, you know, just do the things that you can do and all the things that we're like not being taught in school, as you said, about like business, being an entrepreneur, and also about money, you know, nobody ever teaches you anything about that. And yeah, so I was reading that and was loving what I was learning and reading about. And as I said, I was just looking for someone who can then teach me these things, because a book can only take you so far, you know, then you need to go to people who are actually doing things. Yeah. And yeah, that's when I came across the Jumpstart event. And I was like, yeah, that ticks all the boxes. So signed
Yeah.
up for that and yeah, never looked back.
So what I love about this whole story is it's went full circle. You came to a property jumpstart event,
Yeah.
and then fast forward a year later, you're on stage. You're on stage sharing your story, which I'm going to get into for sure, because you've done a number of deals which we're going to dig into, because I think it's always great to talk about those as well, and just your whole thoughts about what got you attracted to property itself, because there's so many different things you could have done. So what was it like coming to Jumpstart in the sense of attendee to then just take all the information in, and then obviously took your next steps to come and work with us on Protoy? But what was that trigger point for you to think about property as a vehicle for you to focus on?
Right, yeah. So, as I said, I was reading lots of different things and learning lots of things about like business mindset. And after Robert Kiyosaki, I just needed to like learn more and read more. And yeah, my big trigger point is my daughter. Yeah, so I wanted to be there for her. And my dad, I mean, God bless him. As I said, like he provided well for like a family of six, all had like fancy cars, you know, all the latest clothes and stuff, good schools, good education. But he was never there. Like was always all over the place, but never home. And he missed like lots on family time and family experiences, and I just didn't want to have the same, you know, didn't want to do the same mistakes. And yeah, that's when I thought like, where can I like go into business or somewhere that can provide me with a good lifestyle while I can still choose what I want to do, like for example be there for my daughter's graduation or stuff like that, you know, just being there for the beautiful big milestones. And yeah, property and business seemed like a really good idea at the time, and yeah, thank God I did it. So yeah.
Great. So tell me about your coming spending 5 days with us at Property Protege. What was that like for you? And then I guess off the back of that, what triggered you on? Because you never, as soon as you finished Protege, I'm sure you had to go back to Germany for a little trip, wasn't it? So it wasn't until like a month later until you really get going with things. Is that right? So tell us a bit
Yeah.
more about Protege itself, and then off the back of that, the first deal, because everyone wants to know about that one.
Of course, yeah. So first of all, the Jumpstart event, the 2 days, I thought obviously that was blowing my mind, and I was thinking like, how can this get any better or any more, you know? And then I signed up for the course in April, and the only thing that I was regretting was like not signing up earlier, because I then had to wait like 3 months until I can actually do the stuff. I was just thinking like, oh man, I should have done that earlier. But then went to the course and it was absolutely amazing. Like changed my life completely, and just not about property and business, but also about different people in the room, and just your mindset and how to take care of yourself. And you probably don't know, but I was like over 2 stones heavier than when I'm sitting here now, you know, so taking care of all aspects of my life. So yeah, Protege absolutely changed my life in every single aspect. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what I love about what you've just said there, first and foremost, I never knew, but you are looking trim. If you've lost 2 stone, then
Yeah.
brilliant, that's great. But that's the unspoken part that people don't realise. And I guess it's one of those ones where, as much as property in itself, and most people consider and look at that because of the wealth that it can be built, maybe it's the idea of wanting to replace their pension or have a better pension or have extra income that comes in, or, you know, there's many different reasons why people see property. But for what we do, especially, and I'm glad you've just touched on that, and through our Protege programs, we want to give you everything you could possibly need in order to get started on our property journey from a complete beginner, even if you're experienced, how to then level up and get to that next level of your business as such. But for me, it's the mindset coaching and training. It's working on you as an individual, because we see that those people who really go to work on themselves And I like to call it your have it all lifestyle, because why be one dimensional? Why be just so good at making money and, not being able to also have the health and wellness to enjoy as well, and also to have the relationships and the family, because you can have it all, you can genuinely have it all, but it's this mindset that you can't, that you've got to just work crazy hours, and by all that work, it's all about focus on making money to provide for the family. And you've experienced that with your dad, and I know from my members of family and friends that I have as well, which have had that work ethic but never knew any different. They just thought, and sometimes it's in our own minds, isn't it, we just need to provide for a family. And your own father as well did such a great job there to be that example. And unfortunately, because of the amount that he worked and knowing that he wanted to provide, it just wasn't always there. And that's a story for many, many people. And it's kind of similarities as well for me, because I'm like, yeah, I'm very grateful for the people around me and the experiences I've had, but I also want to be able to do life my way, to be there for the kids too. So it's great to, in one way, have that work ethic and that example, but at the same time going, well, if I can look at an asset class like property and I can get to work on myself to grow as a person, then why not be able to be everywhere and be able to do it all?
Yeah, and one thing that really stuck out to me as well was when you talked about looking at relationships and partners, because everybody obviously has their flaws, and you said about like the 80-20 rule and applying that as well. And I feel that's what I've done in the past as well. I was just focusing on the stuff that was annoying me. So, for example, my missus leaves tissues around, and it was driving me nuts. Like always just picking them up, and would ruin my day. It's like, so annoying. But if you start focusing and shifting your mind and look at the good stuff rather than the bad, your life just becomes so much easier, so much more relaxed, and so much better as well. And after the course, my relationship with her improved as well. Not that we had any problems or anything, but
Yeah, you could always improve, of course.
yeah, so
absolutely.
we definitely improved, and we've done lots more things together as well. As you said, like health and wellness stuff. Taking care of ourselves. So yeah, 100%.
No, it's great. It's so important to have strong relationships around you, and it's great that you've got a partner that's supportive as well. Because I know that your story from coming on Protoy and then starting to get started on your property business, having her to support and help you along the beginning of your journey was a big thing for you too. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially because, as you said, I didn't really have that supportive network that you probably should have around you, and she was probably one of two that were actually really supporting me and saying like, yeah, just go for this when I said about what I wanted to do, and she obviously looked into you as well, and she said, I definitely just go for it. But lots of people around me weren't, so they weren't saying like, how can you like spunk money up? Of course, you've got a wedding coming up, get married in April, so that's exciting, and like save money for deposit for a house and stuff like that. And meanwhile, they were taking out loans and credit cards for like going on holiday, for weddings, and for extensions on their houses. So it's like a complete different mindset, and it was very important that I had her, because without her, like if everybody talks negative, it's hard to stay positive. But it's also good when I did the course that I had the tribe around me, because there's like 500 people in there who all are like-minded and positive. And when I had an issue, any problems, I was just posting in there and had like hundreds of comments on this saying like, no, keep going, so
Yeah.
that was very helpful.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference when you've got a supportive network for sure. And I guess that those people around you, I know myself, like many times in the early days of my journey, my friends, family members thought I was crazy, but they're operating through their map of the world and their mindset of how things are supposed to be done. And it's not like they are trying to talk you out of certain things. They're just imposing their own limitations upon you, because in their mind, they believe that they can't do it. So how are you supposed to do it? Or they know you for who you are. And for me in the early days, they never knew me as the property guy, someone who was investing in property. They just saw me as this young guy who wanted to get involved in property, and they started to impose their limitations upon me. And for most people, they take that on board and they listen. And that there is heartbreaking in one way, because for many people, that's where dreams are unfulfilled, because they've let their environment, their social circles, their so-called friends, some family members keep them where they are when they're capable of so much more. So it's great that you didn't allow that to be the case, that you saw beyond that, which I think is amazing, because that can totally reshape your future. So
100%.
leaving Protege, talk about the first deal.
Oh, that's good. So it was a couple of weeks out, and obviously when you start, you just a little bit everywhere, not really too organized. But yeah, so my missus sent me like thousands of Facebook Marketplace ads, probably every single property in Scotland that was advertised there, she sent over to me. And I was messaging them all, and somebody got back to me, and then I driven out the next day to view the property and secured that in there and then, which was amazing. The property was worth around £50,000, and we secured that for 34, which was amazing. And then £10,000 of a refurb, and then a refinance at 70k. So it was a really cracking deal for a buy-to-let investor. And when I came home from the viewing, I phoned Greg because he was offshore at the time, and I phoned my missus, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening," And yeah, the profits I made on the deal was obviously outstanding as well, So probably more money that I've made in the last year. So that was really good.
Yeah. Now, what's that like when you do your first deal? You're literally going out there. It's great that not only your partner is looking at deals and all that stuff as well, and passing things over. You've got your business partner there too as well. But it's just great that you're going out there you're just taking action, and you secured the deal.
I know that was the thing that you said. Obviously, it's like don't wait. And you were seeing the story about I don't know who it was, but who went for lunch and then the deal was gone. And he was asking me like, "Do you want to come over the next day?" And I was like, "Right, okay. When are you awake?" I come there straight away. And yeah, I just didn't want to make the same mistakes there. And as soon as I arranged the meeting, because I was or used to be socially anxious, like I couldn't even, like as I said, answer a phone if I didn't know the number. That's how anxious I was. And as soon as I scheduled in the viewing, my mind said like, "Oh, don't go. There will be others. Just stay home. It's cozy. Turn on the football or something like that. And I just pushing through that and pushing through my boundaries and actually making it happen was amazing. Just proving it to myself that I can do this, and yeah, it was a great feeling.
And was that the first deal that you did? Was that to secure it and sell on to an investor?
Yeah, so I sourced that one away to an investor, and because I started my sourcing business, and technically it was such a good deal that I could have taken that on myself, because I only left I think 5 to 7 grand in the deal, and it would have been all money out deal within like 2 years. So it was really, really good. But at the time, obviously setting up the sourcing business, so you just want to get that going and just make investors happy and like build credibility, and
Yeah.
so.
And let's have a little chat about some of your experiences with agents.
Oh god.
Because I can relate. But I think it'd be great for anyone who's watching or listening here too to understand that process. Because, yeah, I've got my thoughts on agents, but we'll not go there. But what was your experience there? Because you've had one in particular that kind of could have been one of those ones that I know that could set a lot of people back if they take it the wrong way.
Yeah, so obviously, like when you start, you don't really know what to say to agents, and obviously you would get really, really good tips from yourself. But in the end of the day, you can't handhold us with the viewings, so we have to handle that ourselves. And most of the agents are actually really, really nice, like they know what you're trying to do, and if you're honest and transparent, then they won't be a dick. There was one who just was a dick. I'm not going to say the name, but it was just terrible the way I was treated. Just by saying like what is that I do, and trying to like pass it on to an investor, and then was asking in the tribe as well, and lots of other people had the same experience, which was reassuring, because I said like, oh, maybe it was me. Maybe I said something wrong or was like offensive or something, but I just by asking some questions, and yeah, it was quite terrible, because I went home, and after that I was like, I don't really want to go to another view, But yeah, it's just part of the game, isn't it? Just you meet people you get on with, and others not so much, So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. There's some great agents out there, and you want to build relationships with them, absolutely. And what you just said there, being transparent and open with them is always a key thing to do. But of course, you're going to find a few that a bit of jealousy there, a bit of resentment, or just don't like you as an individual and what you're doing and sourcing deals for other people. It's just bizarre. It's just a closed mindset. But that's a lot of people out there, isn't it? It's not just estate agents as such. And we have those people, but we just need to allow those to go their own way, so we can then focus on what we're trying to achieve and doing, and getting the right relationships with the right people.
Yeah, 100%. And as you said, it's not just agents, it's especially my existing network was obviously exactly like that, when I started telling people what I was doing, they all said like, "I very good, we thought I was going to try and do this, and it was quite hard, to be honest, because the way that I worked was obviously like in my existing network, I grew that just with the personal development that I've done, but I wasn't like sophisticated enough in the new field, like in property and business, and with all of that I had like my new friends, if that makes sense. Like they
Yeah.
wanted the same things, and that's why at the beginning it was hard because I didn't have that support. But as I said, like the tribe was amazing for that, and then yeah, I met lots of my new best friends now in the tribe as well. So that's really cool. Yeah.
No, that's great. So you're also involved in a number of other strategies as well, which is great. So let's talk us into some of the key ones that you're working on, which would be good to have a chat about and talk about some of your lessons learned through those.
Yeah, so one that really sticks out is a service accommodation deal that I've sourced away to one of our onboarded investors. We secured that one for £35,000, worth 50, and after a refurb of like £25,000, that'll refinance at 85, and that's a unicorn deal, so one of those that actually don't exist. So yeah, that will be really good, and she was obviously over the moon because we overperformed. I think her criteria was around 4 years all money out, and we were obviously like way over that. So she's very happy. And we secured a flip, so I picked up the keys for that one in Newton Marnes. That's really exciting. So secured that for 78,000 refurb, again 25 to 30 more or less, and the end value will be 160, and the profits on that are just mind blowing. It's £40,000, and as you mentioned at the event, I was actually looking up. It's like £34,000. It's the average UK salary, and with the one flip, we're like making more than that. I just can't believe that, to be honest. Yeah, and also got an assisted sale that just went on the market 2 days ago, and we invested £12,000. So that was all the refurb and all the other associated costs, and we are making 100% cash on cash. So we're making 12k profit on that. We thought it would be 12k profit, but yesterday we had the first couple of viewings, and we actually had, I think it was 8,500 more than what we expected, an offer in already with a broker. So yeah, that's exciting. So we're probably going to make like 120, 130% cash on cash.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, one of the things I always say to people is that if you've got goals, which you should have, if you don't, well, there's the first steps, right? Start thinking about some goals. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're not achieving those goals, the reality is either one or two things. One, it's no longer a motivation, no longer a drive, no longer a goal, and that's perfectly fine. Or chances are you haven't yet developed as a person through your own personal growth to become that person that can achieve the goal itself. And it sounds like from your own point of view, especially over the last year with your own personal growth, it seems like that's been a big focus of yours. It's been something that you've really taken on board and realised that to become the best version of myself, I need to go through that personal growth. I need to lose a couple of stone. I'm surprised by that. I need to go back and look at pictures to see,
I'll show you some later.
right? So there, that's been commitment in itself, and you've seen the benefit from that, the confidence that comes off the back of that, strengthening your relationships, your significant other and business relationships too, which has a massive impact, and being able to do and achieve so much more when it's over and above just yourself. And then, of course, applying the things that you learn and stretching your comfort zone, coming up on stage and speaking in front of 100 people and coming doing a podcast. I know this is not your only one because you did the podcast with This Week in Property with Richard Swan, and you had a little funny story about how at the beginning of it was a little bit ropey.
Yeah.
But you've done it. You've developed yourself. You're now here chatting away, doing this, and you've done all of this in less than a year.
I know, it's absolutely mad, and I think it's vital what you just said there. So it's not about like just setting yourself a goal, but you need to become that person. So when I decided that I wanted to lose weight and take care of myself, it wasn't like, I don't know, I want to have a six pack. Obviously, you can say like, oh yes, I want that, and that would look good. But I changed that to, I want to be a healthy person, or I am a healthy person. And with that, then obviously like a healthy person doesn't just lie on the couch, works out, eats healthy, looks what you're doing and getting the steps in and everything. And if that's just who I am, then I can't accept anything less anymore. And that's what I've done with lots of areas of my life, and
Yeah.
obviously it's working. So
You just say something there that's so important. Rather than focusing on, I want to get healthy, or I want to lose a couple of stone, or I want to six pack, you just said something that's so profound, and obviously it is for you, but I don't think people even understand this part. You said that I am a healthy person. So you now identify as a healthy person. And if you identify as being a healthy person, then you will not go and sit on the couch. You won't go and binge on TV. You won't just, do the exact opposite, because it's a new identity. And if that becomes your new value that you value. So a funny conversation I just had the other day, because time's a big thing for me, right? So for me, you only have so many hours. You only have so much time. Like, life is so finite when you think about it. And I'm having a conversation with someone, and we're talking about values and what you identify as. And he was finding it a little bit of a challenge in the sense of, well, I understand values, but what does it actually mean? And I says, well, you said to me, and I use this in a way that we're having a conversation about time and how that, he's spending time doing things that he knows he shouldn't do. He was spending time on things to make him feel like he was being busy, but he wasn't really. It was just a way of feeling like he was doing something. And I just asked the question, do you value time? He's like, absolutely, yes. So, okay, great, that's interesting. Well, why is it that you value that? And he said, well, I believe you need to show up on time. You need to respect other people's time. And I went, that's interesting because you just told me that you waste a lot of time in the things. So do you see how that you might believe that you value time, but your actions other. So that goes back to what you're saying there about identifying as someone who is fit and healthy. But if you identify with that because you've got a goal to lose some weight, and that might be the goal, but then other actions in your life by sitting there and vegetating on the couch and putting off going doing the gym, and I'll get to that tomorrow, and maybe having some extra Dorito chips or whatever it may be. It's funny how you could say one thing but your actions elsewhere tell you otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great that just what you said there, I believe it's just so profound how it's basically you identify as you are a healthy person long before that you actually are, because it's a becoming process as well.
Yeah, and I think that's also something that pushes you on when you don't want to. So if I say like, oh, I want a six pack, if I then eat like a pizza the next day, it doesn't really bother me too much. But if it's like who I am and that's like friction against my own values, as you said, that's like a big trigger. Like you can't accept that anymore, and you don't accept anything else. And then sitting on the couch eating pizza or Dorito chips or whatever it is, it's not acceptable to your life anymore, and you will want to go. Even I mean, I still don't like going to the gym. You're like, getting up in the morning, you wanna sleep in. But if that's just who you identify as, then the why you're doing these things becomes a lot bigger and a more powerful, and will push you on the days when you don't actually want to do that. If that
Yeah.
makes sense, yeah.
Absolutely. Look, it's always good to have balance in your life and have those moments where you can indulge a little bit as well. But at the same time, where's your focus? Where's your drive? What's the biggest goal that you're looking to achieve? And having that growth mindset and having the right people around you and just taking action. Simple recipe for success. It's crazy.
Mm.
So look, I've got nothing but admiration for what you've done in terms of your own personal growth, but more importantly, just taking action and seeing those results. And still, as a young guy who is driven and motivated, I know for sure that when people watch this or listen to it, they'll be inspired by it. But maybe let us know a bit more about the future, the goal, maybe in the next few years. You mentioned there you got the keys to your new office, and you didn't even think that that was going to be a 5-year goal, but look what's happened in such a quicker period of time. But I know that people like yourself, you're going to be driven and motivated for more. So what is maybe the bigger picture and the focus going forward?
Yeah, 100%. So, biggest goal for this year was just to go full time. And when Greg comes back 2 weeks, obviously, employer might be watching, but then we're going to be full time, which is absolutely amazing. So, we've got the funds set aside, just what you said, being consistent in your pot allocation. Like when you get money coming in, for example, for an assisted say where you're making, I don't know, 20 grand, it's easy to then like go and book like a holiday or something. But we're very strict, or I'm very strict with putting the money in the pots and aside. So that's a really big goal that we're taking off. Another big goal was actually to speak on a podcast, so taking that one off as well, and speaking at networking events. But for the business itself, we want to scale it up and keep growing it, because we've got a really good investor base now that we've onboarded, and looking to scale that, because obviously we don't want to get comfortable with that. And starting to employ people. So we're looking at May, June time that we're actually hiring the first right hand man, sorry. And yeah, which is very exciting, because I didn't think that I would hire someone like again with the office like 5 years, to then take some parts of the business so that we can take a little bit of a step back rather than working in the business, going to all the viewings, doing all the meetings, that we can work on the business and scaling that up. That's a big one. And obviously, like in property, you've got so many different things that you can attach to the main business, and we've got like 15 different other business ideas already. But obviously need to calm ourselves with that. And yeah, by the end of the year, We want to launch, for example, a home improvements company. That's a big goal as well. And yeah, I mean, we set our goals. That was start of January, and they were a bit not mental, but obviously like very, very high and ambitious. And we wanted to do 200 deals this year, raise £5 million investor finance, make 600k profit, and revenue of £1 million. And it sounds crazy, but we're actually on track to most of them, which is absolutely unreal. But yeah, that's the main brand of it.
You've got to have those big goals. You've got to. You've got to. Look, I get excited when I hear all this stuff. And if you do even a tenth of what you've just said there, we're going to have you back on this podcast again, right? We're going to have you back on talking about all these deals and the things that you're doing. And I know, like, I see, I've helped coach and support thousands of people over the last decade, and people stand out. And you're one of those standouts, you know. So I'm excited to see what your journey is going to be. Genuinely, you know, excited. And I'm sure that those that are watching or listening, be sure to connect with Thor. Thor, where's the best place to catch you on? We'll link off to all your, you know, your social media handles and your websites and stuff. But where's the best place for people to reach out?
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere.
Best thing is probably Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm basically any platform that's on there. I'm there just to advertise, get investors, and find the sellers. You know, so literally anywhere. Yeah.
Great stuff. It's been an absolute pleasure having a conversation with you. This won't be the last, I'm sure. We'll be hearing from you again. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Look, you guys are going to be inspired. I know you are. And of course, like always, if you've got any questions with regards to this episode for Thor himself, you can reach out to him or pop it into the comments below. I'll be sure to go in there and check them out and respond. And I'm sure Thor will keep an eye there as well. So until next time, all the best and bye for now.